if this bill helps to improve critical thinking in students, then I think that's a very positive thing. The very people who are being so critical of this bill, particularly in the science community, have been guiding science education in Tennessee for the last 30 years. In the last 30 years, the United States has fallen further and further behind the other countries. And I think it's somewhat of an irony that they are professing to understand and know everything about science education, while at the same time we see American students falling further behind in science education. That's quite ironic to me. I think the bill is designed, as I've said over and over again, the bill is designed to encourage critical thinking in students. A student actually sent me an email, and one of the interesting things I brought up was, you know, nobody's talked about the information that we're now getting through internet technology. And we wonder if we have questions about that information that we're now reading at home and on our own computer. Should our teachers not be able to discuss that with us? And I would say yes, and that's going to create great teachable moments for teachers. As I've told you, and I've told everyone, no one seems to listen, all of the things that these people keep referencing, I amended out the evolution. I amended out the global warming. All that's amended out.
No, it's not in the amendment I saw.
Oh yes, if you read down below that little preamble, you'll read a line that says, and everything above this section is amended out, is amended. And all that's in there are the lower sections which deal with the encouraging the school boards to help teachers to understand how to best present the information, well, the last 4 or 5 sections of the bill. But that whole preamble, if you read the bill that I filed, that preamble's in the bill, but then below that it says, and further amend. And when that says, and further amend, it removes that upper section, which is all the terminology that these people have been talking about.
But at the same time, I mean, you know, just by the fact that it was there within the body of that amendment, but it's being taken out, I mean, those are the areas that you feel that they should be directed at, right?
No, those are just common areas where obviously this bill has proven there is a lot of debate about. But again, when this is published by the Code Commission, what will be in the code are those final sections which simply talk about encouraging debate and discussion about, you know, scientific strengths and weaknesses, analyzing critical thinking, all those kinds of things.
So this bill, does it actually change anything, or is it really just encouraging?
I don't think it changes anything. The only thing that,
so then why pass it?
well, oftentimes legislation is brought as to encourage action, and the one thing that it potentially changes is a teacher's comfort level and confidence in responding to questions that students may have regarding scientific theories that are taught in the classroom. I don't understand the negativity of that we would not encourage our students to think outside the box, that we would require students to only learn through rote memorization and then regurgitate everything back to us. That's not critical thinking. And again, I would reference Tony Wagner's book on the global achievement gap. What business and industry needs are critical thinkers, and critical thinkers who can communicate effectively. If it helps accomplish that fact, then I think it's been it's been helpful.
But just by, I mean, why, if you start off with this amendment saying that it would apply to these areas, or these are examples, why even mention that if that's not your intent to, you know, to go into those areas? Isn't that somewhat, I hate to use the word disingenuous, but I mean, you know, you're stating in the bill as passed that, you know, that it would include these areas, and then you're saying, well, for purposes of the code.
I guess if you were using literary terminology, you would say that was sort of a prelude. But again, in the law, what I wanted in the law was those sections that don't include any of that kind of language.
Me, and I'm sure I've asked you this, but if I have, I've forgotten. Do you accept the theory of evolution?
Yeah, I don't have any problem with theory of evolution.
I mean, you were got a degree in biology. And
Sure, I believe that the theory of evolution is science's best explanation of how things are. I'm not an evolutionary scientist, so I can't speak to all the specifics of evolution. But it doesn't. I'm not an anti-science person. I am a science person. I was trained in the sciences, biology and chemistry, physics. I mean, I was trained in the sciences. I am not anti-science. I am very much a promoter of critical analysis, critical thinking, and I think any theory or any subject matter we should not be offended when it is subjected to critical analysis. And look, you know, teachers need to help students especially in today's information age where we are all bombarded with information on the internet, some of it credible, some of it not. How do students learn how to disseminate credible information from non-credible information if they're not practicing that skill in the most fundamental of all places, and that's the classroom, particularly in the science classroom?
well, I mean, but would they be able to discuss things like creationism or intelligent design? Or?
Well, I think if a teacher was asked a question about it, but again, creationism, intelligent design are not part of the state's curriculum. They're not to be taught. If a student asks a question about it, I think a teacher should feel comfortable in using that as a teachable moment to say, here's in this teacher's classroom, here's the difference between science and creationism, or here's the difference between evolution and creationism, and here's why evolution is science's best explanation, and creationism is not. Great teachable moment for a teacher.
The governor seemed to suggest that this bill solves more confusion than it does provide answers, and do you disagree with the governor?
Well, my response earlier to Andy asked me the same question is that the confusion is created by those who have taken the bill and, in my opinion, have misled what the bill does. And I think that's created the confusion. I think if you read the bill and what's going to be in the law, it's very straightforward. But those who have been in opposition to the bill, and maybe perhaps to some degree proponents of the bill, have mischaracterized what the bill actually does. You know, I keep saying that, and nobody seems to be listening to me. But all the different subject matter that they throw up or they throw out. Again, what will be in the code and what's in the law, none of that's there. None of that is there. None of that appears.
Has the governor been bamboozled as well? I mean, you couldn't convince him
No,
otherwise?
the governor understood it. Sure he did. Yeah.
Why didn't he sign it?
As again I answered earlier, I think that the governor's position is that look, this is not part of the governor's education package. This is an initiative that the legislature took on, an overwhelming bipartisan majorities, and this is an action of the legislature, and therefore he's going to let the legislature have ownership of this, and he's not, and that's fine. But he again points out that this doesn't change anything about our state's curriculum. It doesn't change anything in how science education is presented in the state of Tennessee. And in my mind, it actually reflects probably what is going on in the classroom now. It just gives teachers a little bit of a comfort level that if a student does ask about creationism, and they respond to it, that the next day someone from the ACLU or some other type of organization like that isn't beating down their door and accusing them of things that simply aren't true.